So welcome to our session. We're on Tuesdays now, and it is the 6th of January 2026. We are going to start our session, leaving some space for Monica to arrive in. But welcome to Shalu, welcome to Fran, welcome to Cacao, welcome to the Spirit of 2026. Please join me. We're going to be going into a little ritual. So we can do all our respective ritual things on our own side, starting with lighting a candle and just calling in the element of fire, the spirit of the sky, the spirit of the sun, the heart of above, and just everything that the fire, the candle, and the light represents to you. And while we are working with our ritual objects, before we go within our cacao drink, then just acknowledging the element of air from there. So if you have something that brings in some smoke, then you're welcome to light that. I have some sacred wood here to open up with a prayer. When we get more into our ceremonialist implements, it's very important to also just be mindful what we use when we are creating a prayer, but also when we are just using something to invoke the air element. And so while we gift some of the sacred smoke, or if you work with sound as well, your sacred sound to the space around you, just mindfully take your hands, take your smoke, take your voice, and just acknowledge the directions of the four winds, the directions of the four quarters. You can do this a few times, one time, and just settling yourself into the space that you are in and also into the spiritual container. And then we also acknowledge the directions of above and below. So you can also just send some smoke, some sound, some intention into those spaces above us and below us. Acknowledging the direction of center to end. And then, of course, acknowledging the element of earth and the element of water. These together, when we work with our ritual drink, we're going to be bringing into the physical body. But before we work with our cacao, just to acknowledge the body being our earth temple. Maybe there's something you would like to hold or place your hands on. Just to feel the breath moving through the body. Maybe you're holding a sacred object, just feeling that. Just really get in touch with the sensory experience of life as we move through this earthly realm. Taking a moment for gratitude that we're able to be here, that we're able to experience life through the physical. And then taking your attention to the element of water. And for you, this might be actually drinking some water into the body. It might just be acknowledging the metaphysical aspect of water within you. And of course, this links in with the liquids in the body, the waters of the earth as well around us, but also the space of mind and heart. So thoughts, feelings, emotions, the space of flow from one moment to the next. Just acknowledging, feeling, maybe moving the body slightly to mimic flow. Just whatever for you in this moment can bring a prayer of gratitude into the space of water. And then the final acknowledgement of water here, preparing us for our cacao, just placing one of the hands directly onto the center of the chest, the seat of our energetic heart center, the spiritual heart. And taking some breaths in and out of this space, preparing it to meet the medicinal cacao in a moment, energetically, allowing a seat at your inner table for Ish Cacao, in whatever form she appears to you today. Cacaocito, la medicina, cura cuerpecito, limpia espiritito. We give thanks to this year. We give thanks to this medicine, the spirit of 2026 on our calendrical year, also in the Mayan calendar, going through the cycles of the Ha'ap. And we thank the original wisdom keepers of the Maya, and through the voices that this wisdom is passed down to our session today, acknowledging Tata Isayas and Nana Isabel. And the medicine that we are going to be receiving physically in a moment, just acknowledging your source, where it comes from, what lands, what people have tended to this cacao. And so with gratitude now, we take another deep breath. And just letting it out into the space as we welcome in this first ritual together. Bringing your cacao to your heart, taking your time if you still need to pour it. And we'll meet with the cacao in our heart space. And connecting into what you would like to be working with specifically today. Maybe it's still some acknowledging and integrating of the last year. Maybe it's just to be present to this moment, whatever it offers, but maybe there's also some kind of an energy flow into the next year, an intention, so to speak. And so, whatever it is that you are working with energetically in your physical medicine today, just allow it to be infused a little bit more now from the center of the heart into your cup. It's like this open tunnel from heart center to cup. Taking a few moments here just in silence with your own breath. And perhaps now just letting go of any particular intention or infusing into the cup and just be present in the space. A listening more than a doing. And then before we sip our cacao, we'll just speak the invocation. Cacaocito la medicina, cura cuerpecito, limpia espiritito. Raising the cacao slightly above the heart, maybe even all the way up towards the heavens, to the heart of the sky. And then lowering the cup down just below the heart, maybe further down to the earth. To the heart of earth. To all our relations. And then bringing that cacao into your body now and just enjoying a sip or two. This is now your own pace, your own time. I'm not going to guide the drinking. Just being with the medicine of cacao and your own heart. Allowing the silence to hold you. Acknowledging this space of silence with a few more breaths. Maybe another sip before we start to breathe a little deeper, but really just be present for the last few moments here in your silence. And allowing the breath to gently and rhythmically deepen. Noticing how the physical and energetic bodies respond to deeper breaths. Not worrying about if you still have cacao left or if it's finished. Just really being present with these deeper breaths. Continuing to listen as you breathe. Thanking body, thanking mind, thanking heart, and thanking spirit. Cacacito la medicina, pura cuerpecito limpia, espiritito. Welcoming 2026. Welcoming yourself into this container as we continue on with our training. Before we engage with each other on the screen, when you feel ready, you can just open up your eyes and just take a portion of the cacao on a fingertip. Maybe it's the liquid of the cacao, maybe it's around the edge of your cup. And then just giving yourself a little marking on your third eye. There's a few options with this. Either it's the third eye, it's the throat area, it's down on the heart, or maybe just one of your wrists. You can always wash it off afterwards. We can always cheat now and use our own cameras as a bit of a mirror. Hmm. So I'm going to start the share just of anything that's relevant now. Um, and then, of course, please, when each of you are ready for your share, you can just dive into anything that literally came up for you now or how your break was. We won't go into too much detail on the course material just yet, but just a general check-in. Um, so I had an interesting inner child moment leading this ritual. There's this beautiful cup that I was gifted by a previous trainee, and she hand makes these cups, and they're quite small in volume, and they like these wonky edges, and I really like it because each one's quite unique. But the one edge is a little lower than the other edge, so sometimes, if the cup is a bit too full, then it really does spill out pretty quickly. So I'm holding the cacao here, guiding the ritual. The next thing, because I'm sitting cross-legged on my chair, the next thing I just feel this nice warm liquid on my legs. I just had that moment of, wow, I haven't done that in so long. And then also just not to worry about it, let it be. So this clearly is meant to come into today's container for the preceding months that we're together. Just a little bit of lightness, a little bit of childlike nature. Of course, I'm looking down now, there are offerings everywhere. Yeah, so also that reminded me as well, turning that situation rather than, oh no, so much to clean up now and it stains and all of this, certain colors don't wash out with cacao. Maybe you already know that by now. But rather to use that as a reminder that actually in the last few rituals that we've had, there hasn't been this acknowledgement afterwards of marking the body. Now, that's not something you always have to do, but it is a nice way of keeping the energy on the body. And then just a reminder, because when you see yourself in a mirror later on your reflection, or if you kind of wipe your forehead and then you find the cacao in your hand, it immediately takes you back to, oh, I just held a ritual. I just sat in ceremony, whatever it was. In some cultures, they wear a little bracelet after ceremony, just a string that's tied on your wrist. If you've been to Bali, then you'll know that happens after some of the ceremonies. And it's not that it carries this magical energy necessarily, although that can be true, but it's more that it just instantly takes our mind to the memory of, and it brings that back to life for us. Because as the day goes, our mind goes into other things. So we're just keeping that thread. And I mention this also now as we go into the level 2 to discuss later on the dieta. It's something we're going to be working with a lot, is just marking the body as reminders through the day. And of course, if you need to go out into public, you can, of course, take it off, but then maybe just a little one on the wrist. You do a little marking on the wrist. And it's also something nice when you're holding ceremonies or serving cacao for others at the end, then you invite them to do it as well. That's why it's nice to have the options. Not everybody wants to walk out with the massive bindi on their forehead. And then if they're journaling, we've done this already, you can take your fingerprint, which is your unique signature, of course, and then you do that on your journal. So a few options for um, body markings. Last thing on this, body markings with cacao are often done around womb spaces with women. And sometimes it's the actual menstrual blood if you feel comfortable working with that. But otherwise, you can just work with your cacao. And if you do take your blood out as an offering to the earth, then you take a cup of cacao as well with you. And you give the blood to the earth, a little bit of the cacao as well. But then you can also mark a little bit more your face. And you can really just play with it and see what comes intuitively. So that's another way to work with all these really earth-based things that our body produces, but that nature also produces. So the constant cycle again of reciprocity, of giving back and receiving, giving back and receiving. And it's quite fun to do some form of a painting, either of your face or on your journal, just with the cacao. So that's a little bit of my share. And it's also just to speak to that personally as a reminder to go into the year with a childlike curiosity and a lightness. So there we go. A little personal share from me. Thank you for listening. Yes, so I would like to hear from each of you, please. Doesn't matter who wants to go first. And also just apologies, Monica. I don't know if you were on the call as we started, but I had to change my screen view. I just saw Shalu, and then I even mentioned, okay, we'll leave space for Monica to come in. And then I changed my screen view and I saw you already there. So sorry if it seemed like I wasn't acknowledging you. Yes, so whoever would like to go first, a share of anything that's come up for you now, or how your transition was into this year.
Happy New Year. And yeah, thank you, Fran. Yeah, I'm so sad that I missed the solstice ceremony. But I did have an opportunity to do something on my own. I've actually had lots of opportunities. I've really, really taken the time to create the spaces for myself to be in ritual. A lot, it's very early in the morning, but to avoid all everybody in the house, because I've had a house full of people. I think so far since I've been in South Africa, there's only been 2 days that we didn't have anybody in the house. So it's been quite busy. But yeah, I actually had cacao ritual with my daughter, beautiful cacao ritual that morning with my daughter on the beach. We watched the sunrise and we did a little offering with flowers and candles on the beach, which was it was very special. Yeah. Um, yeah, uh, this new year feels, it's funny. It's almost like spirit just keep telling me that I need to let go and relax, especially with this new year, because it just feels like it's literally galloping.
Mm,
And you saying like with being looking at it from a child like that,
mm,
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely,
mm,
and letting go and just go with the flow. It's a big, big, big thing. So that absolutely resonated with me as well. Yeah. Otherwise, it's been good. Hey, it's been a beautiful Christmas, lots of families. Yeah, so no, it's been good. Thanks.
mm. Thanks, Monica. Yeah, the holiday, sometimes that's needed after the holiday, hey, especially hosting.
Yes.
And yeah, very special that you had that ritual sunrise with your daughter. Yeah, I can imagine the early start to get all that ready. You, by the way, are looking radiant. So just whatever
Thank
maybe
you.
it's your morning, maybe it's your the time that you're carving out for yourself or just all the loved ones around you, but you are looking absolutely radiant. And
Thank you.
yeah, Happy New Year.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing. Shalu, how about you, sister?
Hello, beautiful ladies. Um, my heart actually missed you guys in the space. Um, yeah, for me it was a very beautiful transition. Um, in terms of the awareness of energy around me. I don't know whether it's just because I'm now so into my daily practice, into the Jingam in the morning, into my everything that I said to my husband, I was like, I've never felt the energy or I don't want to use the word chaos, but the chaos that comes with Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. But it was just like, and the days in between Christmas and New Year's was just like it, it was very strange for me energetically. Like I have never felt like that because it was a whole bunch of new experiences. Um, and I thought of you often, like keep grounding, keep like returning to nature. So that was just like a constant. But there's just, I think, when you are energetically sensitive, I guess there's certain things you can't avoid. So it was just a lot of learning how to be in observation, not know that it's not mine, and just like try and stay here as much as possible. Um, but yeah, it was beautiful. I had a beautiful, beautiful New Year's ritual with my little girl. We did a whole thing where she blew out a candle as the sun was setting, and we made a wish. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun, just the three of us. So that was really special. Um, yeah, and yeah, not much else. Just happy and connecting a lot more to nature. I think the solstice ritual really activated a certain part of me or revealed a certain part of me that I hadn't really allowed myself to go into, where my heart leads into nature. So, um, and I did send you pictures, but it was just for me, it was so beautiful to like see my heart set up in the space, set up in the flowers that I chose. Like it was just a very, it was a marking point of transition. I definitely stepped into a different part of me, a different part of my heart. And yeah, it's now definitely flowing constantly throughout, like wildflowers and nature. Color purple seems to be everywhere. But yeah, that's that's about it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Shalu. It's so lovely to hear that deeper connection to nature. And yes, Monica, I agree. Lots of hearts coming up the screen. And yeah, it's amazing when we think, yeah, I've got this relationship going, that there's another layer that we can go into. And it's the same with our own relationship to ourselves, to our own hearts. And super special, I mean, both of you, you know, the connection with your daughters and the rituals, and yeah, just um very encouraging of that space. I am. So just keep intuitively doing whatever you already are doing with your kids, with your families. Um, you know, in that sense, the real facilitator and the person who actually knows how to do it and who calls the shots is you. That's it, you know, because you are part of that family. You're the mothers, you're the glue of that family. And, you know, I can advise from the sidelines, but I don't need to. You just both are intuitively doing really great work already in the world. Makes me emotional to think about it because, I mean, if we can instill certain values and expose our kids, you know, the younger generation to things that are so important, then yeah, yeah, our work here is done. Our work here is done. Because just by default, they're going to be, you know, sometime in their life, maybe now already, you know, chatting to their friends and or even just later on as an adult, like remembering, oh, I did that. And then that might take them off into a different trajectory. It might be a lifesaver at some point in their life. So thank you so much already for doing the work. And before those floodgates open anymore, I also just want to, sorry, on Shalu's share, just come back to, yes, it's an interesting time energetically. The end of the year, the end of our calendar year, which largely the whole world now, the whole world systems work on. So there's a lot of energy kind of coming to this closing or pausing point. And especially in the Southern Hemisphere, our schools end as well. You know, there's a lot of like wrapping up, and our end of the year is, you know, schools and work is December. Plus, I've said this before, but now that Shali's kind of mentioned it from an energetic noticing point, we are in the height of summer. And so there's like a double whammy happening of a lot of fire energy and a lot of air energy. I mean, I don't know if you remember the last call before the ceremony, but our last call, there'd just been a big fire here in the area, and it is fire season. These things happen. But I had this heightened awareness of what that does to the natural world, largely the animals around us. And as people, we're also animals. And there's just this instant fight or flight that we go into because primitively, fire is something we need to, you know, run away from because it's danger. And so our system goes and gets ready for that. So it's a similar thing energetically when we get to the peak of the summer solstice. Our system is gearing up for like a lot of action. However, at the end of a year, we're pretty tired and we're needing to kind of go into R&R mode. So this is one of the reasons why as well you're given that module 5 to help with the transition over the course of 1 year into the next, or level 1 to level 2 in the Cacao training. It's just to go, even though it's a reminder, you know, even though the world in our southern hemisphere is like really gearing up for party mode, celebrations, height of summer, lots of fire, lots of air in its elements, we actually need to go into the deep winter. So in the northern hemisphere, they're a bit more geared into this, right? It's the end of the year, sure. It's winter time. So they have their celebrations. The days are short though. There's a bit more time to sleep and that kind of thing, and just really rest and be at home. Whereas it's the height of summer, it's time to go out and do things, right? But actually our systems are so exhausted, we're needing to rest. So there's all of that just to be aware of as well. So thank you for the shares, both of you. And yes, I will always be here to receive anything in whatever form. So please keep sending emails, photos, long shares, short shares, whatever they are. And if you don't do that, that's fine as well. I try get to a response as well. Shalu, I've still got a response coming your way. And it is beautiful for me to see the photos of your space if you want to do that as well. It really does like just bring me into your life and into your ritual. So please keep sharing that. Um, with the elements, final thing I just want to say, using this as an opportunity to just branch into another teaching. When it comes to the four sacred elements, fire, earth, water, and air, depending on what system you've learned it from, they might be linked into a specific chakra in the body. They might go in a certain order. That might be a bit different. Nonetheless, as long as we acknowledge them in our ritual space, however we kind of see them or perceive them is absolutely fine. Another layer to work with is looking at the ascending versus the descending elements. And this will really help, especially if we're finding we're needing to build in a little bit more energetic resilience. So, Shali, for example, you mentioned, being quite sensitive to energy. This is another way that just have it in your awareness, what I'm about to share now. And at some point, there might be an applicable ritual to do with it, or there might be an applicable action to take or non-action just to counter a little bit too much of one element, right? So largely we can be aware, height of summer, a lot of fire energy, right? That's an obvious one. So how do we counter that? Well, we want to bring in water, definitely, because water and fire are polar elements, but also earth, right? So those are kind of things that logically make sense. Now, why is that? Think about fire. Which way does it go when it burns? Does it go that way or that way? It goes that way. When you burn some incense, which way does the smoke go? Right. If you're holding a rock in your hand and you let it go and it rolls, which way does it go? And the same thing, if you're holding some water through your fingers, which way does it go? Down. There we go. Perfect. There's two ascending elements and there's two descending elements. By that nature, the descending elements have a little bit more weight to them. This is not like physical science, this is more energetic. So there's a density. Of course, yes, Earth is a lot more dense physically as well. As a result, it moves slower. Density has a slowness of quality to it. Things that are ascending, I mean, we've seen, you light some smoke, it's gone. You watch a fire, the flame of our candles now, there's this constant dance and this movement, but if I had to make that fire into a bushfire, it would go and take very quickly. Think of rock. Right now we know the Earth is, I learned this the other day again, 4.2 or 4.6 billion years old. And just going back to some basic geography from school days, how slow, relative to our time frame of perception, how slow the Earth changes form. So rock, how that grows, quote unquote, takes so long. Now, we are also earth-based largely in the body. There's part of us that is earth, and there's part of us that is not earth, right? The energetic component. So whenever we are feeling like we have a little bit too much fire and a little bit too much air, definitely a little bit too much air, right? That's a kind of windy day. We're feeling a little head in the clouds, we even have this language. I don't feel very grounded. It's because there's a lot of this ascending energy happening. So how do we counter that? All right, cool down, cool the system down energetically because it's very much on a fire ascending drive. Cool it down. We also don't say that, right? Our language, think about it. We say, I'm going to heat up some water. I'm going to cool this water down. It's there in our language already, hey? We don't say, I'm going to cool this water up or I'm going to heat this water down. So it's there already. It's just now to click into it on a conscious level. We can never go wrong, in my opinion anyways, in the era that we live today, in the technological era where it's just fast paced. We can never go wrong with grounding, with earth practices, with taking our shoes off and being on the grass. We can never do too much of that, in my opinion. And we can also never have too many swims or immerses into water or showers. And I mean, I'm talking showers without the scrubs and the soaps and all of that, right? It's just the wetting of the body, the cooling of the system. Yeah, it's interesting to observe from the wellness perspective as well, which is another, with that I have a foot in the wellness industry. And it's interesting to observe over the years, all the trends. And at the moment, energetically speaking, the human race is in a lot of fire. and a lot of air. The internet is the air element here. A lot of fire. Go, go, go. Do, do, do. Be successful. Keep producing. Stay productive. So much yang energy, right? That causes a lot of fire and a lot of air that comes with that. And it's interesting how now this wellness trend of ice baths or cold water immersions has just taken the wellness industry by storm. Yes, saunas are coming in, but almost like as a okay, let's do a bit of both. It's not like sauna, sauna, sauna. It's definitely cold immersion, cold immersion, cold immersion, and then maybe a bit of sauna to just get the extremes going a bit. And it's super interesting because yes, there's so much physically that's beneficial for, we're at the right time and with the right person and all of that. But think of it energetically. The human race is spinning out of control. There's a lot of fire element there. And how do we counter that? We just put the body into this ice water. Okay. There we go. Calm down, right? Because the central nervous system responds, right? We go from fight or flight, which is that fire energy, all the way down to the parasympathetic again. That's the water, the grounding, the earth, and then we find homeostasis. Also, our systems being in an earth vessel, made up of earth. The food we eat comes from plants, comes from animals. We are literally made up of Mother Earth. When we die, we give back to Mother Earth, our most ultimate offering, the compost of our body. So when we go back into nature, all these things, again, forest therapies, all these things that are coming out, they're not new. They've been around for thousands of years. They're just now been they're like now monetized, right? When we go back into nature, back into our gardens is fine, or back into a real wild environment, our system energetically starts to sync again with the rhythms of nature. And now this can be proved with our beautiful technological science in this era we're living in, but it doesn't take a rocket science or a modern scientist to kind of feel this. We might not need to know all the analytical whys, why exactly, what happens in the brain and what happens in this part of the kidney or whatever it is. We just feel it. We go into nature. And generally people say, I found myself slowing down. And it's not that they're slowing down to a point of stop. It's that they've just been in such an overdrive of spin and go, 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 that their system is now slowing down enough to sync again with what is a natural baseline. So, summary of that: 2 ascending elements, fire and air, 2 descending elements, earth and water. Sometimes we might need to have that as like a theoretical knowledge, so that we can just go, oh my gosh, I know I'm spinning. What's the opposite of that? Okay, water. Let me just go drink some water. And then that's just enough to like slow you down, to create a pause, to go, oh, sure, I've been very much in my head lately, very much air element. All right, let me take myself out for a nature walk, no phone on me, maybe barefoot just for a bit on the grass outside, on the beach, whatever it is. Monica, if you're still at the coast at the moment, then those ocean swims are just the best as well. Complete cleansing of the body in nature herself. I would love to hear if any of you have anything to add to this. This is also, this is an ongoing learning for all of us. So anything you would like to add or just share, maybe from a recent experience?
Now I don't feel so insane for going out in the rain yesterday, day before yesterday. It was, because I'm also obviously now paying a lot more attention to, well, I always have my internal cycle, but now also understanding like, am I yin or yang today? And then, okay, what part of my internal cycle is that synced with, and what is now the energy around me synced? Like, I'm very much in that state of observation and awareness and everything. So I hit the height of, well, the first day of PMS, I guess, and the fire element just went through the roof. And it was very interesting because I obviously was guided to make the cacao drink, which was more of the yin energy. But like you said, that whole day you just feel you still, and then yeah, it was funny you say that because my husband came home and I said to him, I was like, I have not felt this fire inside of me like this in such a long time. Like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I'm even asking, does it need to be channeled in creative expression? What do I need to do with it? And he said to me, but what counts as fire is water. And the rain was pouring down, and I went straight. But the cold from the rain and literally that 2 minutes of just putting my hands out and then I just like put it over my and then putting my feet into the puddles instantly just and I felt myself. And since then, like day 3 now, EMS tracking, it hasn't risen again. So yeah, okay, we're on the same page.
Um, geez, I wish I could do that when I get the night sweats now. Going into perimenopause, it's hearing what all other women have gone through before me, and I'm like, yep, I'm there now. So I wish there was a puddle that I could just put my feet into in the middle of the night. But exactly that, right? There's like the water right there. Um, and you could have also, so beautiful that your husband had pointed that out, the beautiful relationship dynamic that comes into play in our lives. You could have also, if there wasn't rain, just like mimic that, maybe a hose pipe outside. And yeah, I mean, I speak like everybody has access to the ocean, and which I do, and it's just such a blessing to have it, but not everybody does. But, like not everyone has access to a garden, but there can be a pot plant, or there can be just some awareness of I'm giving my offering down the drain, and that's going to go down into, eventually the
Yeah.
earth.
The other thing
So
was
yeah,
just to
so
go, yeah, just to have like cold shower. That was the other thing was
exactly,
just
exactly.
water on your
So
head though. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
it's interesting. I've also found that going for swims when it's just my shoulders down that have been immersed versus the whole body. There's definitely something about getting our head and our brain and all of that completely immersed in the water. So exactly that, the cold shower or go out in the rain and just literally go stand completely out in the rain. I think you would only be crazy if you went out in the rain naked, a neighbor took a photo of you and it was printed all over, everywhere. Even that wouldn't be crazy. You'd probably like start a trend. That'd be great. So thank you, Charlie. Yeah, very recent experience of energy like that. Monica, anything from your side? You don't have to share, but just something's come up.
Yeah, it's just funny. Yesterday, my daughter and I went for a walk yesterday after we took the
Mm.
dogs, and there's an area that I call Mermaid's Pool. And the two of us, it's because of the moon, it was super high, and it was this beautiful big pool, and we were swimming in this pool. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's like in the movies. But
Amazing.
yeah, but it's also I have also found that completely wet because I've got a thing with my hair. My hair is quite a lot of work. So completely wetting my head and just going up to shoulders, there's definitely for me a big difference. It's
Yeah,
like
a
this,
big difference.
yeah,
Yeah,
this I don't know.
yeah.
It's the ultimate
There,
cleanse.
hmm, hmm. I want to share something around Bali and their water rituals in a moment, but just to say, literally yesterday with my mom, so mother-daughter combo, we went for a walk and we went to a pool that we have started to call Mermaid's Pool. How funny. Anyway, so there were two mother-daughters at different parts of the country in different mermaids pools. Um, yeah, okay, so back to Bali. The It's interesting when I look at, okay, just a summary, Cape Cacao, the two cacao sources you know by now, just a quick summary. It's from Bali, Indonesia, and then up in the jungles in Guatemala. All right. There is a general kind of knowing about the Balinese culture being like a water-based culture energetically. If you've gone there or if ever you go there, uh, then you'll notice this. It's because both of them are in the tropics, right? So there's tropical rain. It's not that there lacks for water, but the Balinese use water in their rituals a lot more Then in Guatemala, they use fire a lot more. And all the elements are all acknowledged and revered and respected equally, but it's all the things that they do to do a cleanse or to do a kind of a speaking to the gods through. It's very much in Bali around water. The people, as a result, and this is over many generations, they're very soft, they're very gentle, they can just go with the flow. Some of the nicest people ever. They're very warm, very welcoming. And then in Guatemala, it's Latin America. And there is this general kind of association of a fire culture. There's lots of passion and very loud. And the people aren't necessarily loud in Guatemala like they could be in some of the other Latino places. But the constant use of fire there, it has an impact energetically and then obviously in a behavioral way on the culture as well. And it's been fascinating for me to observe this over time. And then working with the cacao from these different places over time. And it's not so black and white, right? It's not like one fits in that category, one fits in that category, and it can never be true to have the opposite energy. Not at all. It's just that there is this general kind of water energy and a general fire energy. Lots of fire ceremonies and then lots of water ceremonies. So back to Bali, the water ceremonies there, when you get a blessing from the Hindu priest who does the water blessings, you get completely soaked. There's the water that comes, sometimes with a ladle, sometimes with a flower, sometimes just the bucket, and you just get drenched. You don't have an option of the hair situation. You go faff with your hair afterwards. But yeah, it's interesting how they don't just do some water wetting at other places of the body. The whole head, from the head down, gets wet. Yeah, the fire cleansers, you're not expected to walk through the fire, but it's more that they use the plants there for the cleansing part of a ceremony, because they also recognize there's a lot of fire heat in Guatemala. The sacred fire is always burning, a lot of fire energy. So at some point in a traditional ceremony, there's women that come around that have the energy of the cleaner and of the midwife, that would receive the baby and then clean the baby and then clean the mother. So they come around with some special herbs on, just like plants. We would think it's just branches of a tree that have been picked off, but they're very special plants already. They've been blessed there in the ceremony, and they come around with some water and then these leaves, and they hit you. They hit you all over. And that's the cleansing part. And it's so nice at that part of the ceremony. So you have this wet kind of earth coming onto you, and it just cleanses you down a bit. But also the idea is that it takes the water and the plants together, take it back down. And then it's a gift to the earth, your sorrow, your pain. So lots of fascinating protocol and rituals around that. But yeah, it is interesting how when there is water that is used, it's just you're completely drenched. There's some cleansing rituals in the Sangoma practices in Southern Africa, where also you'll do a muti bath, and this is specific. The practitioner, the Sangoma, or the herbalist has given you the herbs, and they just say to you over the next few days or few weeks, you must, in a bucket, mix it, speak your intention, just like we would do mixing our cacao, and then you can go outside or just stand in your shower or in your bath, and then you've got to pour this over you, but you have to pour it from the top down. Yeah, so getting the head immersed. Okay. On that note of Bali, before we move into our course material, I would like to officially welcome Monica to the pilgrimage. I don't think I've actually had a chance to say this to you face to face. Shalu, there's absolutely no pressure put on you to join the pilgrimage at any chance, but I'm mentioning as well, just in case you've been on the fence about it, because Monica is coming. And it's going to be a wonderful time. But anyways, that's out of the cacao training discussions, but I just wanted to acknowledge you here on the call. Then the level 2 had that transition module, right? Module 5. And that was kind of to give you a reminder, please just slow down over the busy fire time. And it might not have been possible, especially if you were full on into festive mode. I get that. But if you could, before the end of January, before the next full moon, So you actually have a little bit longer. But before the next full moon, if you could just put in some time for that, and especially the date with yourself. So just want to check you can nod or what's that called? Shake your head. I just wanted to more have the discussion on the date, the date with yourself. Did either of you manage to do that yet? No. Okay. So that was actually the only part of the home practice where it required you to just put a bit of effort in. The rest of it is just go sleep, just go rest. So if you could please just go back to that module 5 and take yourself off on a date, and I would like to hear what it is. Why this is important is psychologically, it speaks to a part that we are going into in module 6. It speaks to that part of really being able to hold ourselves, to stand in our power. And to stand in our power, we have to have self-worth. We have to be able to recognize that we are incredibly special and we need to value that. And we need to put energy into feeding that part of ourselves. Otherwise, especially as mothers, there's a lot of giving, a lot of giving, a lot of giving all the time, which is great. That's your role. That's your role in life. But to be an even better mom, to be able to give even more, you got to be able to give to yourself. Now, if this brings up a lot for you, and you don't have to share anything of like this on the call, if it brings up a lot for you, and you're not at the point yet, and I say yet because we can all move into the space of I'm not good enough to I'm so worthy. If you're not in that space yet, just let me know. Let me know in an email. And I'm never going to call you out. I'm never going to, in the group calls, I'm not going to kind of like, talk through this. Because sometimes if we're not ready for that yet, it can actually make us run further away from little steps that we might be taking in towards that direction if we kind of put in the spotlight and have to speak through it and have to share certain stuff. So something like taking ourselves off on a date, it might not be something we feel comfortable doing in the beginning just because it's new. Maybe it's just like, oh, that's a waste of time, or I could like piggyback that onto spending time with my daughter, so my daughter's gonna come with, or I could see a friend, or I could also just go and like catch up on my coursework while I'm doing that. Try to just multitask and everything. The idea is that you literally say, right now, I'm the most important person in my life, and I'm going to take myself off for that fancy lunch that I've always wanted to go to, but I haven't because it's a waste of money. I don't have the time. What will people think of me going alone? All those things. So there's quite a bit to work. There could be quite a lot to work through psychologically. But it can also just be, geez, I actually just want to have 3 hours on the couch with my book alone. No interruptions. So then you don't take your phone with you. And you make sure the kids aren't in the house, and all those things. So that's why it might need a bit of planning over maybe a weekend, or when the rest of the family's away, or when you can actually take yourself off for half a morning or an afternoon or something. This is also a little introduction into kind of what is required in the dieta if you are wanting to do the dieta during this training. The dieta part, we discuss it next module, but the dieta is something that I advise every cacao practitioner to do at some point on their journey. You have the opportunity to do it in this container just because, we're here, we've got this beautiful energetic bubble that we are working within, and we can share, we can feedback, or just know that we held within that space. But you can also do it outside of the training if there's just a lot happening and you can't really carve out the time for yourself to do it. So here is the key part is you need to carve out time. Not to study your course material, not to clean the house, not to do all the things on the to-do list. Literally just to enjoy. However that means, whatever that means to you at the moment, however that manifests. So that's the one part that is, it seems a little fluffy if you go read through it in module 5, but there's some deep roots here into some other workings, and it sets up at least an awareness going into the next module. It might not be integrated fully yet, and that's fine, but it's just that there's these steps that we are going through that if we follow them within these 3 months or over the course for ourselves personally, over the course of the year or the next 2 years, whatever your time frame is, needing to integrate steps. that we are going sequentially into something that really at the end is going to give us this incredible sense of self-worth, of inner power, of our authentic voice, of really rooting in our truth and not being scared to speak from that space, and valuing ourselves as well. So the umbrella of self-love, I think sometimes is also kind of thrown around a little in the healing spaces nowadays, the big spiritual movement that we all are part of. But it actually there's a lot of grounded realness to it. Yes, it can also be quite flighty, like self-love this, self-love that, but like, what does that actually mean? Because actually, by the time we've kind of integrated self-love and we have it as a daily, as a moment by moment knowing within us, it's not selfish. In the beginning, it might need to be. It's all about me. It's the same with our cacao journey. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's like, really go into it. Go into you being the center of your healing or your journey of learning or growth or spiritual journey, whatever it is. But then once that's integrated, we can then authentically be part of the whole, part of community, part of the ecosystem of nature as well. But because there's such a fragmented individual in our societies, we need to first bring back the parts, our fragmented parts. Not all of them, because that might not never be possible, but it might not all be possible, but just enough to come back, really, really know that we are enough and we have value and that we are part of family, society, community, the human race, the earth, nature. Okay. And this is where module 6 is going to also help you kind of, maybe at the moment as I'm speaking, it might be like, what does she actually mean? It's all very well to talk about the fragmented self and this and that, but like, how does that apply practically in my day? So when you go through the shadow integration parts, and dream work helps with that, voice activation helps with that, but this key tool of shadow work and shadow integration, it's a tool in your toolbox for life. I would say for many people, it becomes, and myself included, it becomes one of the ones that they use a lot. So you've got your toolbox, it's that tool that you are always using, always using, always using. Shadow integration, we're starting on it now already, just the discussion here. I just want to see if any of you have an idea of that work, if you've done some of this work before, if you're like super new to it, and that's also, it's good for me to know where you're at. But then we also have these next 2 weeks and our next call completely dedicated to this module 6, because it is a lot. The theory might be, if you've done some of this before, it might be easier to grasp, but the real work is in the practice. And it's a practice for life. It's not like, okay, it's kind of like the energy work. It's not like, oh, okay, I now understand this, tick, I've done it, I don't do it ever again. It's a constant. Why? Because life is going to throw us curveballs all the time. Why? Because the biggest triggers in our life are going to be the ones we are closest to. Why? Because we want to actually develop healthy relationships in our life with other people and with ourselves. All right? I, for one, I would like to know if I have this complete blind spot that I don't know, but it's the reason why I can't have a relationship. I don't have any friends. I can't hold a job. All these things that you hear people might be tripping them up. I would like to know, well, there's a cause within me that I just don't know about. There's a blind spot. So shadow integration helps, or shadow work helps with that. And then it's about integrating that as well. And the integration part is different to the work. They're similar. But shadow work is like these identifying of like what my triggers are and where I could maybe do some work on myself. The integrating of it is recognizing all of these parts that we actually have done subconsciously. We have pushed parts of ourselves away. We have rejected parts of ourselves because we felt it was necessary for our survival. And the integration part is bringing those parts of us home with love and with compassion. Key, I work with cacao. So I am a big advocate of doing any of this like therapeutic work alongside the energy of cacao. Because we need to be able to hold ourselves in a hug when we notice we have been a really bad human in the past, rather than, oh my God, I can't believe I was such a bad human in the past. Oh, I'm a really bad, and you keep like, I was not going to use bad language there, but we probably would be so hard on ourselves that we're doing the opposite. So shadow work, we can recognize shadow. Shadow integration is bringing compassion and going, okay, but I'm going to try love that about myself over time. It might not happen instantly, but it's over time, over time. So all the parts that we are ashamed of, that we are embarrassed about, that maybe we've even suppressed or repressed, these things might come up again during the shadow work. The questions in the home practice are designed to gently just show you some of your shadow. Okay, shock factor, everybody has shadow. Shock factor, you're going to be facing them face on, head on. So go into this, here we go, with a little bit of that lightness that I started the call with, because it can get very heavy very quickly when we start to now focus all on our shadow. And it's because we only have a few weeks for this. I want you to remember that this is like an ongoing thing for life. So we need to take small bite-sized chunks. By the way, the shadow integration is a standalone course that I do privately with people for 6 weeks. Some of them extend it to 8 weeks. All right. It's a lovely follow on from your cacao training if you want to go specifically more into shadow work, right? So you do have these options. Maybe it's enough on the course and then you just take what you've learned and you carry on. But if you want, there is an option to go further. The same with the dream work. It's a 6-week standalone private course that I do with people. You have both of those now in the cacao training module 6. Voice activation as well. I work with people for 3 months privately to activate voice. Now you have that as well in module 6. So just to put it in perspective, right? There's a lot that you've got in module 6. Bite-sized chunks. When you're feeling overwhelmed, please pull back and bring in some childlike play. Just go do something fun. Take yourself off on a date, right? So you can see how all these things are kind of coming into play now, right? You've got to remember that life has both. Even though we're going to be focusing in on shadow when it gets too overwhelming, just pull back, go do something fun. Spend time with your kids, right? That's honestly the best. Go out into nature, spend time with the kids. Cool. All right, so that's kind of just how to navigate going through this module. I want to see if there's any questions on the module, if you've started it. Have you ever done any shadow work formally before? And just give me a feel for like where you're at in the module, if anywhere, and then what's your understanding of this or your experience of this, if any. Either of you, excuse me, can start first.
I have done shadow work before. I haven't started the module yet though. So that's something that I need to do. I do have been feeling of late in the last like week or two that it's coming off. So it's obviously the energy of it preparing to go to do this. So yeah, I do know that if you are going to do, or when we do shadow work, that we need to take the time to lots of self-love, because of the first time when I went through it, it was hectic. Yeah, it was quite heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, okay.
Yeah. So
definitely, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Monica. I'm just going to speak to that before Shalu shares. I feel like the first time for most people is always going to be it's just a bit of a shock, because if we've never ever thought about us having a shadow, now all of a sudden we have to like chew on that for a bit, like, oh, I'm not perfect. I kind of know that, but like half of me is not perfect, and now I'm going to hone in on that. Whoa, that's a lot. And now we're going to work through it. So we're going back into our pain. That's essentially what we're doing. That's why already, and I want to mention this to both of you now, you've already been working with Cacao for a long enough time to bring in the compassion, to bring in the understanding, right? There's in the introduction in the shadow work, it's there. We have done this, yes, subconsciously, it's our own doing, so we need to take responsibility for it now in our lives. But we did it because we were trying to fit in. Every human being goes through this part of socializing. It's impossible not to, right? We're just wanting the love from our primary caregivers. For most of us, it's our parents. But then still, it could be guardians, teachers, mentors later on, friends, peer pressure. We want to fit in. We want to feel loved. So as a result, we just push parts of ourselves aside to be part of the crowd, to be acceptable, to be normal, quote unquote. All right. Of course, that's in a more of a healthier dynamic. Everybody goes through it. It's just socializing. Of course, there could be an unconscious parent, a parent in their own pain, a parent in their own trauma that's now reacting to that child. So it's a double whammy. The child then has to learn how to tiptoe around that adult to really get the parts of love, to be a people pleaser, all of that. So this goes into a lot of behavioral things that we pick up as kids that we just carry on into adulthood that may not be serving us. That's what this is designed to, one, show us. Two, it's to show us that when we are holding space for other people, it's about them. It's not about us. If we are triggered, and I guarantee you, you will be triggered when you hold space. That's why we need to do this work. When we are triggered, we need to identify, that's my stuff, and park it for the time being. Get back to it later. Do some shadow work on it later, not during the ceremony. We need to be able to notice those stimuli when they come, our triggers to them, and be able to pause and not just react. Because reactive behavior, when we are triggered and we're in a facilitator's role, is bad news, very bad news. Hence why I also am very mindful when I go sit in spaces where there are really young facilitators. It's not that they probably haven't integrated shadows, just that they haven't really had a lot of life experience, maybe not even opportunities to look at stuff yet. But we notice that as we go, right? There's like a maturity that progresses. Also, I've also sat in spaces where I have put someone on a pedestal because that's part of the shadow work that I'm now working with. I put people on pedestals, they should know better because they look the part, they're older than me, they have words that they use, but I don't know. Oh, this must be some magic stuff. And they are perfect, quote unquote. And then they're just human. And there's a part there that also might show me that they're human. And all of a sudden my world falls apart. So all these different triggers, how we can just pause and choose our reaction and not just, choose our response, not just react. And being able to be a bit more discerning as well as we go in life. Through compassion. It's a very different approach from hurt or from envy or from jealousy. But you'll see when we go into the shadow work, we asked, who are you jealous of or who are you envious of? Because those are going to be little way showers, little markers into actually parts of you that you need to look at as well for good reasons. Thank you, Monica, for sharing. I hope that the next time now when you do your shadow work, that there's another layer of depth for you, because that generally happens when we go back and repeat, and maybe some new parts of the tool, so like different angles, different approaches, because there are many different ways of doing shadow work. And that now with the work of Cacao, that it's not as overwhelming in that sense of my stuff. It's might be overwhelming just in the absolute forgiveness that comes and the tears that are shed and the beautiful space of, wow, I've got me, But that's a lovely overwhelm. Cool. Shalu, anything you would like to share on it? If there's any experience, or I know you said I did see your first email and you said you've started some of the dream work. But in terms of shadow integration, is there anything there you would like to speak to?
Well, I think shadow work has been constant. I'm now just part of I've been doing it, I think, for 4 or 5 years now. And I think it's only within the last year this last year that's passed, that I'm fully into this is how it goes. And the acceptance of the shadow comes up, it's part of you that's looking for love. It's not a bad thing, that more compassionate side of holding the inner child within, um, and just realizing that it's just a part of me that is ready to be loved, it's ready to be healed. So I think in terms of that, it's been I've come a long way. Like I often enjoy looking back at photos of me and just realizing that, wow, that girl, I honor her and I love her because she went through so much. And yeah, I'm here to tell her she's safe. I'm here to keep bringing her back into the safe space. And yeah, just um yeah, so I'm not for shadow work, to go back to that. Shadow work and integration is not something I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah, cool.
I'm very much working with it, very much it comes up. I don't even, like, if I feel jealousy now or something, I'm just like, ooh, okay. There's something there. And then, like you said, park it, remember it, write it down, quick voice note or whatever, and then I'll come back and sit with it. But if for some reason it hasn't clicked within the last month or two, to actually sit with Cacao and include her in the healing part of it. So, and funny, like you say, the energy is always preparing you, because um the shadow of perfectionism, like a whole new layer of it, has just revealed itself to me in the last 2 days. I think it came in alignment with the fire I was feeling, because I also understand that um, your PMS is your wise, wild woman. And if you learn to honor her and love her and listen to the way she talks, she's got the messages of where your shadow is. So it's all tied up. So I'm now ready to now do the integration part. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I haven't yet. I chose to start with the dream work rather than the shadow work.
That's an interesting observation in itself, but we'll leave that for when you're going through the shadow integration kind of reflections. Yeah, and thank you for sharing you said the last year or so was when it kind of started to land for you. Was this roughly around the same time you started working with Cacao? Or am I drawing kind of
Yeah,
conclusions there?
yeah, it has been, yeah, since
Mm.
beginning of March. Yeah. There's just an acceptance that landed into me, because
Yeah.
I think it's obviously like with everything, you get to the point of anger where you're like, why am I constantly
Mm.
being thrown into shadow work? And I don't want to do it. I want to be happy and not just go there. And then it was just like, this is it. You have to, it's not going away. It's just getting better. So it has been, I think, the first half of the year when, yes, working with Chelsea and Cacao has brought the
Mm.
acceptance. So yeah, yeah.
Mm. Oh, thank you. The shadow work it is a beautiful friend that we can have alongside us with Cacao. Um, and yeah, like you say, like with that anger, for example, the jealousy, just trying to maybe not jealousy so much, it's a little bit of a sneakier one, but like anger is so obvious, right? It's just go away, just go away. And we get more and more angry about the anger not going away. And it's also with anger is a nice one to use it for examples. Kind of just like a summary of things that for integration. It's not that we are trying to get rid of it, which both of you might know by now. difficult to do when it's an uncomfortable moment, feeling, sensation, experience that we're reliving, whatever it is. But that's the gold. That's the gold right there, is to sit with that. Be there in the stickiness of it. Be there in, sometimes I get, my body just wants to move. It wants to move away from the situation, literally. You know, like we find these people always moving all over the world. It's like, and they're always complaining about things. Well, they're taking themselves with them. The common denominator isn't shifting, and they don't see that. You know, the grass is always greener kind of situation. So sometimes I get that. I'm like, I get this like irritable, like, you know, restless leg syndrome, but I get restless body syndrome. So what I used to do is try force myself just to sit there and experience that. And now I go, all right, let me at least just try sit for a little bit and just be in this stickiness. And then it's to bring in a ritual. So remember a while back I was saying a ritual is not just the intention of it, not just the energy side or the mental part. It's also a somatic something with the physical body. So now I mentioned this already because maybe you want to start working with your cacao drink, but you also might want to shift things around, especially if it is anger. Anger's got a lot of fire there. It's a tall order to ask somebody to just sit and feel the anger. Often you need to move with the anger, shake it out of the system, put on some, like, I don't know, heavy metal or just some music that you can maybe dance to. That's not heavy metal. And just go and stomp it out, go dance it out. Go. I found periods of my life when I allowed this kind of moving with anger rather than just sitting in meditation with it. I was running at the time, and I found some of my best running months were when I was going through pockets of intense anger. Because I was able just to, I had all this fire in me, and I just needed to, it didn't exhaust me then because I wasn't going through perimenopause. Now I wouldn't choose that way of opting with anger. I think I'd just be completely depleted by the end of a day. So we got to also just remember the context of our lives, what's going to be appropriate, but some form of somatic expression. And it can be, I'm going to go to the garden and I'm just going to walk and I'm just going to move a little, like little, you know, slow dance thing. And maybe I'm going to go find a quiet place or take a pillow with me and just scream it out. Um, and there's a ritual in that, right? There's the intention of, I want to release this anger, but I'm not just sitting in the perfect kind of Zen meditative role. I'm taking myself into a role where I can engage in somatics, the physical release of the energy. I see this time and time again in ceremony spaces where I have invited the practitioners to release. And it's not always comfortable to be in those spaces for other participants, but even as the facilitator. So just be very mindful if you are setting up a container with a theme of release. You know, you can set the boundaries. Sometimes I do invite the participants to release, and there's a lot of like sometimes screaming or some convulsing, and this is for people that obviously are familiar with this already. You know, they just feel comfortable already doing it. But also sometimes it's not really the context, it's not the space for it. So then I say, you know, we're doing this theme on release and renewal, whatever, but please be mindful that you're in a group space, and so we just keep it appropriate to not disrupting anybody else. However, if you feel like you're wanting to work through this later on, then we can arrange, you know, some one-on-one work. And then, you know, the person's got like free reign to look like they're being exercised from a bad spirit. So yeah, it's just also that, you know, you have when you're a facilitator, you can call the shots to a degree. You're helping set the parameters, the boundaries of what is appropriate in the space, and then what is not appropriate for that particular space. But for your own work, some form of a ritual. And often, if it's not like an intense amount of anger, sometimes it's enough. We sit with our cacao, we have our ritual implements. Maybe there's an extra thing that you happen to pick up on your walk that day that really is representing what you are going through. Or maybe there's just something else from your altar space, or a teddy bear or something from your daughter's room. I don't know, something, you know, something extra, of course. But often it's enough, just what we work with already. And we light that candle and we hold the candle, we look at the candle, we blow out candles like you said that you did, Shalu, on your New Year's. Um, and the incense and the smokes, and with working with the cacao and maybe placing on the body. There's so many things that when we really just allow ourselves to go into the somatic part of the ritual, it becomes very intuitive. Those things often, for in a solo situation, I would say try not to plan too much, because it's in that moment when you need to have that release or that acknowledgement or that bringing in of love, bringing in acceptance. You just know what to do. But of course, we have to work already through all the elements to understand them, bring them into our own rituals, experience yin, experience yang, work with the different solar, polarities, the solstices, work with the lunar phases, like we've been doing. Level 1 was all of that. And now level 2 is you've got all of this. Yes, we can always be integrating more, but right now, you've both integrated so much. Now we can trust that the energy in that moment of that particular ritual space has a spirit of its own. And that's going to guide you into what you need to do or not do. Like sometimes remember those yin kind of rituals? It was maybe you just want to lie down and have a nap right there. So set up your yoga mat with a cushion or whatever, but like right there, or go to your bed. And maybe that's your ritual. So all forms can be true. I wanted to just touch on quickly before we get into some final bits and pieces. Jealousy, I mentioned it. Charlie also mentioned it again. It's Monica, you mentioned envy, or am I thinking? Anyways, I've heard one of you at least said jealousy. It's a really interesting one. When you go into the coursework, you'll see there's a section of golden shadow. And for the sake of just getting the information across, there are these two categories. It's dark shadow and golden shadow. And I know in the past, practitioners have struggled with this a little if they're quite new to shadow integration. Because in the beginning, it's helpful to have these two categories. Like one is the light and the other one's the dark, right? Your golden shadow and your dark shadow are one and the same. It's just the golden shadow up until a certain point may have just been repressed. For example, a natural artist in some child draws mommy a picture at school, comes home, shows mommy. Mommy's just, had a busy day, doesn't give the child the recognition of what was just such a joyful moment of that inner artist starting to be created. Mommy barely recognizes the picture, might even say like, oh, don't be silly. You need to focus on something else now. Go throw it away. All right. Very different to, oh, that's beautiful, my darling, puts it up on the fridge. So what happens in that moment that the mom doesn't know is that child might take on my inner creative is not, can't be loved, is not worthy of love. And that suppresses the inner creative for the rest of their adult life until they have an opportunity, hopefully, to engage with shadow work and shadow integration. So now what happens while that inner artist is being suppressed and they grow up, they're going to notice every single other form of creative expression in their friends, in colleagues, out in the media, and they're going to resent it, they're going to judge it, they're going to be jealous of it. Why? Because that jealousy is a mirror, is a way shower, is a light saying, hey, this is something that you need to look at because you have the same potential. You have the potential to be an expressed human being like all human beings are. You have that, but it's just not being played out. And that, it forms jealousy then. Jealousy is a wonderful, once we can start to recognize jealousy and not play it out unconsciously, jealousy shows us parts of ourselves that want to be expressed in that similar form, but we haven't yet allowed to be expressed for whatever reason from our past. Does that example make sense? Okay, it's a simple example, but it might be a bit more complicated in your own life. For example, I used to really judge, be harsh and critical on women who used to just flaunt their bodies around and dress very sensually and sexy. And not so much that they were just showing too much flesh, it was that they were so empowered in their womanness, and this was especially like around dancing. Women that used to go out and just be able to dance with so much confidence. At the time, I needed alcohol to even feel remotely sexy or even to get up and dance, kind of thing. And I started to look at this and I did some shadow work around it. And it did. There was like this repressed sexuality just from being socialized in a certain way and in kind of more traditional systems and conservative systems. And there was this repression. And I was then just like projecting it onto anybody that was remotely confident in their sexuality and sensuality. And since having done that work, I look at those people now and they don't trigger me. They don't trigger me at all. I dress the same. I have nicer outfits now. I treat myself from time to time to something new, which I never did before. So those kind of things, plus the way that I actually honored the integration of that. This is a part of me as well that I would never have tapped into if I hadn't have done this work. Was I went and I took out 2 years of private salsa dancing classes to learn how to be sensual in movement. And it was the best decision I ever made for what is still now such a passion. I'd always loved the idea of doing it, but also judged the woman that did it from certain cultures where, it's from. And yeah, so that's an example now. And I feel so much more confident, competent. I don't have to go and be showy about it. There's just this kind of real embodied sensuality. And it's a beautiful feeling as a woman to be in touch with that. So yeah, it was through jealousy that I noticed all of that stuff. With the shadow integration, if you want to fast track it, some of the questions might be a bit too light if you've done this before, right? If you want to fast track it, you can go into any questioning for yourself of your past. You'll see what I mean when you get into the questions in the home practice. Ask you how do you feel about certain races, certain genders or sexual expressions, certain blah, blah, blah. If you want to fast track it, you start to do all the work on either your ancestors, living ancestors, immediate family, all right? Because they are close to home, they're right here, and they trigger us all the time. Because there's just not those boundaries that we have with other people, right? You do that, ancestral shadow and sexual shadow, like I've just mentioned. And it's to do more work around those, because indirectly that will show you then, for example, your relationship with money. That's often linked in there with the sexual shadow, with the ancestral shadow as well. What has been the narrative that we have been told that's been like literally brainwashed into us through our upbringing? So there's a lot of overlap with things. And yeah, I hope there's a lot of insight that comes. And remember, when it gets too overwhelming, pull back. Less is more, bite-sized chunks, and try ritualize some form of the integration part, right? Yes, it might be some journaling just to kind of get in some like meditating and just like going for walks and just mulling it over, churning it out. But then to really honor something that's caused you a lot of pain or that you've been holding, that you haven't yet forgiven, or that you now are bringing some like extra love to and some extra acceptance. It might take some time still to fully integrate, but like you're starting that process of conscious love to this previously fragmented part of you. Then you do some form of a ritual just to really honor that. It can be something very small. Yeah. Are there any questions on maybe the structure of the next 2 weeks? Anything that's unsure with I've talked a lot about shadow integration, but of course there's also the dream work fits into that, the voice activation fits into that. So just in general, module 6, any questions, concerns? And then you've got a little date with yourself as well. Don't forget that part. And hopefully that just starts like this little ongoing ritual. That could be the way that you then start to integrate your shadow work, because it speaks to it all. It says, I love myself so much. Doesn't matter what I've been through in the past, doesn't matter what I've just acknowledged about myself that I'm still tentatively working with. I'm going to go and treat myself because damn, I'm worth it. Okay, that's the message you want to send to yourself. Cool. So if we could just switch our heads into a little bit of admin space, won't be a long one because Julianne, as always, will follow up with an email just with all of this in black and white. But just to explain to you, it won't take long, it'll be another 3 minutes. Just to explain to you the next, it's so sad, honestly, the last part. I'm trying not to use that word. The next 3 months, because it is, it's a good 3 months still together. We have these 2 January calls. Cool. Module 6, shadow integration, dream work, voice activation. Trying not to jump too far ahead into, okay, both of you, you've committed to holding a ceremony. There's something about dieta. Fran's talking about dieta. What's that? When are we going to fit all this in? Right. Try not to jump too far ahead. Just really focusing on this because it is such an important pillar to have for our space holding. All right. I will, of course, start to address things towards the end of our next January call. I'll leave a bit of time at the end, and I will touch on dieta, other things. So if you have some questions, let's have it then. Rather just focus in now on this, and then we'll talk about dieta then, because it is introduced in the next module anyways. So you might want to start with it then already in Feb. Okay. So if you are considering the dieta, I do suggest you do it in Feb. Okay. All right. So then we also have our 2 calls in Feb. 7th and, oh gosh, yeah, 7th and the 17th. All right. The call on the 17th, along with it being module 8, I'm going to leave some time at the end to talk about the ceremonies. So pre-brief, think of it that way. Because you have a debrief after your ceremony. This is your pre-brief. All right, so let's just recap today. End of Jan, we're going to have our module 6 discussion properly. And I'm going to leave some time at the end to talk about the dieta if you're wanting to start the dieta in Feb. Then we have our first call in Feb. And then we have our second call in Feb. That second call in Feb on the 17th, I will leave a bit of time at the end to talk about the pre-brief, talk about your ceremonies. Okay. Then in March, because by then you're going to be in full ceremony and wanting to just plan ceremonies, and that's the whole point. Is like, don't jump too far ahead, rather really honor this section, honor the next section, and then it's just ceremonies. Okay. In March, the first call on the 3rd of March, I'm not going to be part of that. Just going to be the 2 of you. The point is that you get to discuss your ceremonies with each other. It's a bit of a support call, group support call. Nice that there's just 2 of you because you can get through a whole lot more now. And there might be parts of your ceremony that you want to just, practice on each other. You won't have time, unless the 2 of you want to just sit on a call for the whole day. Probably not likely. And you have each other's emails, you have each other's WhatsApp. So you arrange whatever time you want. I suggest you just keep the same day going at least. We've already got this time slotted out in our calendars. So the hour and a half, maybe 2 hours starting at 10 o'clock on that Tuesday. And you just chat through your theme, the ideas, go one and then go the other one. This is also a good way to start to manage. If you were holding a sharing circle, you would have to also go, okay, you talk now and then thank you. And then you talk now. And so it's also a nice way without me kind of guiding the structure of it. You decide how you want to do it. Naturally, both of you are good listeners as well. There's only 2 of you. It probably will just be more of a conversation, but let each other have their time allocation. So maybe you say, you can share for 10 minutes. And again, I'll talk about this just before we have this call. You talk about whatever point for 10 minutes. I'm just going to listen. You can ask me questions, bounce things off me, but it's your time to share and kind of like, mull over things. And then you switch. So it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, however you want to structure, but have that right at the beginning of the call. Just like, how do you want to structure the time of this call? And one of you might want to just really talk through, the whole opening, like 10 minutes of your ceremony. You want to actually talk through word by word, pause by pause, all of that. And the other one is like, no, I don't really want to do that, but I want to guide you through the meditation I have planned, after the cacao. Or I just want to guide you through drinking the cacao ritual. And you give each other feedback that way if you want feedback. So also just be clear on that. Do you want feedback or do you just want like a sounding, not a sounding board, but you just want someone to receive it? So it's an opportunity for you either just to talk through your ceremony, practice little bits of it, and just hear, how it's really nice. You get extra feedback than just from me. Because my feedback is not before. I give you the pre-brief, then you've got to practice your own ceremonies in your own time, and you have this opportunity now on that call to come together and do that, plus your own thing at home, and then you hold the ceremony. And then I give you feedback. Okay, so we're clear on that call on the 3rd. I'm not going to be on the call. You can do it on a WhatsApp call, if one of you want to share, if you have a Zoom account or Google Meets or whatever it is, FaceTime, go back in the day, however you want to do it, right? So you guys organize your time then. The actual ceremonies, we're going to discuss the time in a sec, but the debriefs are going to be with Module 9 together on Tuesday the 17th. So essentially it's just the next call date. That's going to be a bit of a longer one. Okay, so this part I want to just chat with you guys quickly. You don't have to answer now, but it'll come in an email if you're still unsure. In terms of when you actually hold your ceremony, each of you have a 90 slot allocated to hold the ceremony. I'll provide the Zoom link, all of that. The details we'll discuss later on. It would be very nice if you could both attend each other's ceremonies, but that's not expected. Would it be possible to do it the day before we have our debrief? So that's a Monday, the 16th, or would you prefer the Sunday? It's just that both of you would have to agree on the same day. You don't have to answer me now unless you're like, yeah, I already know I can't do the Monday. Or Shalu?
Yeah, I'd have to do the Sunday. I won't be able
Okay.
to do the Monday. Yeah.
Sunday. Oh yeah, perfect.
Sunday. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So
I've
it's
got a
Sunday the 5th. Yeah.
I've got a quick question. Just
Mhm.
because I'll be leaving South Africa on the 21st, and I would just want to make sure that my cacao supply is 100% correct. So that is a dieta.
Yeah.
How much cacao do I need to take
Just
with
read
me
21st of what? 21st of what?
of Jan? Of Jan.
Of Jan. Okay, so you'll be putting in an
Yeah,
order
it's
soon.
Wednesdays. So I want
Yes.
to do I
About
want to
2
do the
weeks.
audit before
Perfect.
before
Cool. So Monica, it's basically just going to be whatever you would normally work with, but just like think, okay, so that you can plan to have enough. Think there's 1 week supply of every single day working with cacao. You might have a little bit more some days, a little bit less some days, but whatever you currently work with, just times that by 7 for your dieta. Mm. And then add a bit more, just in case. Because some people do find they actually go into a full ceremonial dose, whatever their ceremonial dose is
yes.
for the entire 7 days. Some people actually just choose to work more with the spiritual component.
Okay, now I'm going to order extra. I'll
Okay.
put an
Because
order in
also
today.
don't forget the cacao doesn't go off, right? So you
Oh,
can
no.
essentially, if you rather over order than under order, you can also use your discounts then as well, and then it can just sit,
Mm.
they're covered for a year. Okay.
Advantage.
Cool.
Okay,
Thank you
cool.
for that. Then the final, so we have okay, let's just put that in. And again, Julianne's going to send you this also, it's black and white. We have the ceremony evaluations on Sunday the 15th, right? Cool. Your debriefs with module 9 is just to speak about ethics. That's on the 17th of March. Okay. And then you do have to submit an ethics assignment, but that can be done anytime in the next week. Right. So basically, after we have our debrief on that 17th, you have another whole week to still do an assignment. So you don't have to do that ahead of time. You've got that whole next week or just the weekends. right? And then our closing circle will be the last time we have a call together as we're going to, as this group. It's the 31st of March. So that's our Tuesday. Okay. And there'll be a ritual there. There will be, yeah, it'll be a long ritual. Think ceremony, but ritual ceremony, right? It's going to be very specific just to us, just to the three of us. Okay. Logistics, questions on that before we close off? Charlie.
I think it's just um it's just asking about how that Sunday the 15th would go. Are you
Cool.
yeah, just yeah.
So normally there's time slots. Like if it's during the week, then there's only certain time slots that work for some people. And then Julianne also just asked, are you available? Can you please send your top 2 time slot options or whatever? But I mean, it's the 2 of us on the call now. You could just let me know if there's any particular time that would work better between a 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Because it's an hour and a half. Don't forget, you've got to also set up. And if you're having people come over to your place, then they've also got to arrive and all of that. You've got to set up that space. If it's an online ceremony, you don't have to worry, but yeah. So there's lots of considerations for it. That's why we don't necessarily discuss the time slot now, but it is just the 3 of us. If you know that there's a better time slot that you prefer, you can just let me know now, and then I'll just I can share that with Julianne when she's putting everything together. Is there a particular time that you would prefer?
For me, it would be the 10 a.m.
Hmm.
Yeah, the
So
morning.
earlier than later.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And then
And
Monica, sorry, Charlie, you carry on.
no, I wanted to know, is there a requirement for the amount of people that we need to have
Yeah,
for the
all of
ceremony?
that does come in when we discuss everything later on.
Okay,
So I mean, to answer your question right now, between 2 and 6 people you have to invite.
okay.
Cool, and organize that. Yeah. But all those details, like literally every single detail, we do discuss later on. Okay. But for now, please just focus on your shadow integration and your dream work, your voice activation. I know you like me, you like to be very organized ahead of time, and it's such a great quality. So I'll give you some information, but the rest I won't. And if you really wanted to, you could just jump ahead in one of the modules, and have a look. Yeah, 2 to 6 people. And it can be in person or online or a hybrid, but I wouldn't recommend that as your first ceremony. All right. Cool. Monica, do you have time slot preference? Or are you happy to go after Shalu, which will probably be 12 o'clock then? Or you
Yeah,
want
no,
a bit later?
I think it would be good to go after Shalu. I'll try and attend Shalu's as well, if you
Yeah.
want. If that's what you want, eh? For us to
It
try and
really, so look,
attend.
it just maybe it's always super nice. In the past, we've had whenever someone from the course has joined their fellow trainees ceremony, it's just been like super nice and supportive. And also you learn as well through that observation. Because don't forget, in this level 2, you don't have a ceremony with me like you had in level 1, where you can learn by observation. So this way, even though it's, all of it adds to learning. If you can sit in as many ceremonies as possible in the next year, just to learn from what other people do, then that's great. So also you have the opportunity to do that now.
So if I can, if it's because I'm not sure if I'm going to be here in South Africa or in Zambia, so depending on where I am, I would like to have people actually physically there, thinking about it. But yeah, I think definitely the later one after shall not be.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. So well, we can work that out. Either way, I have to be online. That's why I said, if one of you wanted to also be online and you both doing in-person ceremonies, that's fine. You have a
Yes,
laptop with the Zoom open. So
yes.
yeah, cool. Can all be done.
I have a
No
camera as
problems.
well, a web camera as well, so that I can use if it needs to be in person. It will be good.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, all of these details we can again we talk about later because it does. It's a lovely discussion to have, and by then you'll have a lot more things to formulated already, and lots more information as well. Because in the course material, there's lots of information about this that you might not even know you needed to ask or know about. All right, beautiful woman. Let's just bring our hands into prayer or onto the heart space. Close the eyes, bow the head down, take a few longer breaths. And just feeling a sense of acknowledgement, gratitude for having started the year in this way. Still in the first week of January, and here we are sitting in community with Cacao, having gone through our level 1, having gone through the fire of the end of the year, and now rooting down into the maturity of the earth element, of that divine feminine that you have nurtured up until this point. You can really now rest in and trust. And so honoring your own heart now, giving thanks to Ish Cacao, and giving thanks to all the circumstances in your life that make it possible for you to live the abundance that you do daily. Taking another 2 breaths here as we acknowledge heart of sky, heart of earth, and to Ish Cacao, our medicine of heart. Maltiosh, thank you. Closing off our call now, we can open up the eyes and just gently blow out the candle. You still have yours burning. And then place the hands towards the screen, an acknowledgement from our heart through our hands to each other. Because if we were in person, these would be extended into a nice big hug. This is our online hug now. So I see you in a couple of weeks. Please remember, you're welcome to keep sending me any shares, also any questions. Yeah, all the best with your shadow integration. See you next time.